Welcome to Fantasia, home of the melodious. My name's Azallea, and today, gonna be bringing you guys my Lunalight deck profile. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. First off, we are playing 3 copies of Lunalight White Rabbit. Now, when White Rabbit is normal summoned, you can target one Lunalight monster in your graveyard and special summon it in defense position. And also, once per turn, you can target spawn trap cards that your opponent controls up to the number of other Lunalight cards that you control, which includes scales in your pendulum zone, and return them to the hand. So basically, she acts as a mini giant true nade that clears the opponent's field before you invest resources into larger plays. So definitely recommend running 3 of her because she is very important to the basic combo of the deck, and the card that she combos with is Lunalight Black Sheep, which we also run 3 copies of. So Lunalight Black Sheep has 2 discard effects, and the first one is that you can add 1 Lunalight monster from your graveyard to your hand, and the second effect is that you can add 1 Polymerization from your deck to your hand. So she is a really important combo piece that fetches Polymerization and works with White Rabbit, because once you discard her, you can get her back with White Rabbit, and now you have 2 monsters and a Polymerization to go into your fusion plays. And her second effect is when this card is used as a fusion material for a fusion summon, you can add 1 Lunalight monster from your graveyard or from your extra deck back to your hand. So she's very great for giving you back resources and maintaining your advantage and allowing you to invest into even bigger plays to start climbing up the ladder with your fusions. So the next monster that we play is 2 copies of Lunalight Purple Butterfly. Now, I see a lot of people playing 3 copies of Purple Butterfly, but I recommend playing 2 just because she gets cloggy and she's not really the best card to have in your hand. So her effect is you could send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard, then target 1 Lunalight monster you control, and it gains 1,000 attack until the end of the turn, which is pretty good when you have your fusions out. But other than that, you're really not going to be able to beat over anything with anything in the main deck. So the second effect is you can banish this card from your graveyard and special summon 1 Lunalight monster from your hand. This card, that effect is usually going to be used for Blue Cat, or maybe Lunalight Wolf, but mostly going to be Blue Cat, which enables you to go into your OTKs. Speaking of Blue Cat, we play 3 copies of the Lunalight Blue Cat, and she is the floater of the deck, so when she is destroyed by battle or by card effects, you can special summon 1 Lunalight monster from your deck straight to the field. And when this card is special summoned, you can target 1 Lunalight monster you control, except Lunalight Blue Cat, and its attack becomes double its original attack until the end of the turn. So basically, she allows you to boost your fusions and double their attack and basically swing for game. So very important card to have at 3, because if you do happen to brick, she will allow you to stay alive for a turn or 2 by looping some of herself and Lunalight Tiger to be able to stall for a couple turns until you draw into combo pieces to allow you to go off again. Speaking of Lunalight Tiger, we play 3 copies of Lunalight Tiger. Now, this card is an absolutely amazing card and the first of the 2 pendulum monsters that this deck has. So the pendulum effect is once per turn, you can target 1 Lunalight monster you can in your graveyard and special summon it. But it cannot attack, its effects are negated, and it's destroyed during the end phase. So there's a lot of restrictions tied to the monster reborn effect, you could say, but the monster that you get back is probably going to be used for a fusion summon like Black Sheep, or you're going to use it to float like Blue Cat, because when Blue Cat's destroyed during the end phase from this effect, you can still float with her. Now, Lunalight Tiger's monster effect is if this card on the field is destroyed by battle or by card effects, you can target 1 Lunalight monster in your graveyard and special summon it. Now, this special summon effect does not have any restrictions, and you can also get back some of your fusions as well, so they can stay on the field and cause your opponent some problems, which is pretty nice. So definitely be running 3 of her. She will gain you pluses either way, whether your opponent destroys her or not. Next off, we are playing 3 copies of Lunalight Wolf. She is the second pendulum monster in the deck, and a scale of 1 to complement Tiger's scale of 5. Now, Lunalight Wolf's pendulum effect is that you can, once per turn, you can fusion summon one Lunalight fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials from your field or your graveyard. So essentially, Lunalight Wolf is a reusable miracle fusion. So it is really, really strong, and I definitely recommend playing 3 of her. Now the monster effect is, if a Lunalight monster you control attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage to your opponent. Which is pretty good if your opponent decides to wall up and everything. And you can still attack for a game and OTK them through their monsters. Now, a lot of people would like to play 1 or 2 wolves, and I definitely do not recommend that. You need to play 3 because of the fact that it's not searchable, and it will almost never, ever clog your hand. You can always go for fusion plays with her, and essentially, she just allows you to extend your plays when you don't have Polymerization. And since Polymerization is only a 3 and we have to draw into non-searchable cards to recover Polymerization, Lunalight Wolf is definitely really strong in that regard. Now, while she's not searchable by things like Tenki, the Lunalight trap card can actually search her, so you should have no problems with having access to her. Alright, so that is it for the Lunalight monsters. For the next, we have a couple tech cards. First of all, we play 1 copy of Brotherhood the Fire Fist Bear. Now, Bear is a really, really strong card, and I would definitely suggest playing 1 just because the fact that it can be used to bait a lot of other card effects. So Cyber Dragon Infinity, Cosmo, Dark Lady, and all that stuff. So basically, once per turn, you can, if this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can set 1 Fire Formation spell card directly from your deck, and once per turn you can send 1 face-up Fire Formation spell or trap card you control to the graveyard, then target 1 monster on the field and destroy that target. So essentially, he is used to just get rid of your dead Tenkis on the field to try to bait out some monster negation effects or things like that. And for the last 2 monsters we play 2 copies of Max C. It really helps us if we're going, because this deck likes to go second, so you want to be main decking some form of hand trap that allows you to gain advantage, to draw into your combo pieces, and for you to go off on your turn. So Max C just allows us to grab a couple more cards from our deck, and the more cards we have, obviously the higher the chance that we can pull off our big combo plays and go for our larger fusions. So that is it for the monsters. Next we will go into the spell cards. Alright, so for the spell cards, we are playing 3 copies of Fire Formation Tenki. This card is the Rhoda of the deck and allows us to add 1 level 4 or lower Beast Warrior type monster from our deck to our hand. Really, really strong card. The only downside is that it can get MST'd or Twin Twistered, but you have to play 3 because it searches out every other card in the deck except the Maxis and Lunalight Wolf, of course. So next off, we are playing 2 copies of Polymerization. Polymerization is a very important card in this deck and is used for our fusion summons. And in conjunction with that, we play 1 copy of Fusion Substitute, which is treated as Polymerization, so we can only play 3 of these combined total. But this card is really strong, and the only downside is that you have to fuse with materials from the field. Which is no problem because White Rabbit and Black Sheep combo puts the 2 monsters on the field that you can fuse with this. And it has a graveyard effect, which is why I play it. You can return 1 fusion monster from your graveyard to the extra deck and draw 1 card. So essentially, when you're fusing with the ladder climbing and stuff, when you use Cat Dancer for Panther Dancer or Panther Dancer for Leo Dancer, you can return like a Cat Dancer or Panther Dancer, an extra fusion monster in your graveyard back to the extra deck to just net an extra card and see if you can extend your plays from that. So really great in that regard, and allows you to put your fusions back just so you don't run out in case you happen to. Things happen. So next off, talk about recovering cards. We play 3 copies of Fusion Recovery. Now Fusion Recovery is an amazing card and probably necessary at least 2 or 3 in this deck. So it allows us to add 1 Polymerization and 1 fusion material monster that was used for a fusion summon from our graveyard to our hand. So this essentially allows us to +1, and you can add back the Polymerization and the Black Sheep, and then when you fuse again with the Black Sheep, you can add back another card. So really, this deck just allows you to continuously recycle your resources and gain advantage while still making big fields. So really, really strong in that regard. Next off, we play some draw power and consistency cards in the form of Allure of Darkness. So if you don't know what this card does, it allows you to just draw 2 cards, and then you banish 1 dark monster from your hand. And if you don't have any dark monsters, then you have to discard your entire hand, which is almost never going to happen because all the Lunalight monsters are dark except for the Pendulums, Tiger, and Wolf. So you're going to have enough monsters to banish, and this just allows you to draw into your deck and try to get your combo pieces going. And if you already have an established field, this just allows you to draw through your deck and see if you can extend your plays to maybe ensure your OTK. Next off, we play some spell and trap removal. 2 copies of Mystical Space Typhoon, just to get rid of any stray back row, maybe Solemn Strikes or something like that, before you normal summon your White Rabbit and go for plays. 1 copy of Twin Twisters because Demise decks are a thing, and a lot of people like to be playing a bunch of trap cards now. Cleave Forts, Yosenjus, Gravekeepers. Card Demise is bringing back a lot of older decks that like to rely on traps, so Twin Twisters is a really great way to clear them out. It's also great against Cosmos and stuff where they set Cosmogers and Call the Haunted. You can just destroy those cards before you go off, and so you have a safer field going into your turn. Next off, we play 1 copy of Instant Fusion. This just allows us to go for some more rank 4 plays, having access to Norden with just 1,000 life points, and go into like things like Diamond Direwolf, Castell to get rid of threats before you use your normal summon. Is just really, really strong. Next off, we play 1 copy of Burial from the Different Dimension. I love this card as a little tech. It's not necessary, but I found it to be really useful because I play 3 copies of Wolf and I play 2 copies of Allure of Darkness. So this just allows me to put back anything that I banished. You're usually going to be banishing a Panther Dancer and 2 Lunalight monsters for Leo Dancer. So if you Burial from a Different Dimension those 3 cards back and you use you have another Wolf, you can make 2 Leo Dances in 1 turn, basically. So this just allows you to go for really big plays. And late game, if you don't have enough resources for Wolf or anything like that, you could just put some materials back and then use them again. So very, very useful. I like it at 1. It's not necessary, though. Next off, we play 1 copy of Raigeki, just in case you need to bait out some things like Cosmo Dark Lady, anything that can, like Cyber Dragon Infinity, anything that can stop you in your plays. So that's a lot of spells. And next off, we are going to go into the trap cards. So for the trap cards, we only play 3, and we only play 3 copies of Lunalight Reincarnation Dance. Now, Lunalight Reincarnation Dance says, if a monster you control is destroyed by battle or by card effects, you can add up to 2 Lunalight monsters from your deck to your hand. The only downside is you can only activate 1 of these per turn, but this card is absolutely amazing for when you're bricking, and it allows you to correct your hand. So basically, instead of waiting several turns to draw into what you need, this card, if you have another monster, preferably Blue Cat because Blue Cat floats, you'll be able to take out whatever card you need from your deck. Normally it's going to be White Rabbit, Black Sheep, but you can also pull out Tiger. This card searches out Wolf. So there's a multitude of cards that you can pick and choose depending on the situation and what's already on the field. So just 3 traps. I don't play any defensive traps because this deck usually wins by turn 2, maybe 3. So yeah. And next off, we're going to go into the extra deck. Alright, so we're going to get into the extra deck. Sorry guys, I had to correct the lighting. Sunlight is just pouring into my room right now and it's so hot. Okay, so for the rank 2, we play Sky Cavalry Centauria. Now, Sky Cavalry Centauria is a great card, and it cannot be destroyed by battle while it has XYZ materials. And at the end of the damage step, if this card battled an opponent's monster, you can detach 1 XYZ material from this card and return the opponent's monster from the field to the hand. So this basically gets rid of any threats that are not targetable or not destructible. So he's a great way to bounce things that you don't want on the field before you go for the OTK, which is really nice. Next off, we play 1 copy of Abyss Dweller. Abyss Dweller is just an amazing card. It stops all the graveyard effects and great against all the meta-relevant decks. You can also just use this before attacking into Cosmos ships. You can use this before attacking into Burning Abyss monsters and all the other floaters that are in the game. And he's just a really all-around good card, and in this deck you can be used aggressively. So Next off, we play one copy of Diamond Direwolf. So basically, you can once per turn, you can detach one XYZ material from this card, target one beast, beast warrior, or winged beast type monster you control, and one other card in the field and destroy them. So he acts as a rank 4 scrap dragon. You can normally decks will just target themselves in another back row or another monster, but in this deck you can target things like blue cat and stuff like that. So your blue cat can float and you don't lose any advantage and stuff like that. So really good card. Next off, we play one copy of Castel, the Skyblaster Musketeer. Pretty much a staple rank 4 decks, just spin back anything that you don't want on the field. More archetype, attribute, type specific, I guess. Brotherhood, the Fire Fist Tiger King. So this requires 2 level 4 Beast Warrior type monsters, and when this card is XYZ summoned, you can set 1 Fire Formation spell or trap card directly from your deck. And once per turn, you can detach 1 XYZ material from this card, negate the effects of all of the face-up effect monsters currently on the field, except Beast Warrior type monsters, until the end of your opponent's turn. So this card is very strong for if your opponent has monsters that can't be targeted, can't be destroyed. You can just use this as a temporary skill drain, and then start crashing your Lunalight fusions into them for massive amounts of damage, and to obviously destroy them. Next off, we play one copy of Utopia, because we run one copy of Utopia, the Lightning. I still like playing this card in the extra deck just because it's another way to out Cosmo ships, even though Lunalight Leo Dancer does that fairly consistently. That's it for the XYZs. Not very much compared to some other decks because this is more of a fusion-centric deck. So for the first fusion, we play one copy of Elder Entity Norden, just because we play the 1 instant fusion, and this allows us to go into rank 4s without using our normal summon, which is really good. Next off, we play 3 copies of Lunalight Cat Dancer. That's right, the first fusion monster of the deck. This requires 2 Lunalight monsters, and it cannot be destroyed by battle, which is an okay effect. It's not that great. And once per turn, during your main phase 1, you can tribute 1 other Lunalight monster, and for the rest of the turn, this card can attack each monster your opponent controls twice. And the first time this card attacks your opponent's monster, the monster is not destroyed. So basically, it allows you to just deal extra damage by attacking multiple times into presumably smaller monsters, right? You don't want to attack things that are bigger than you. But every time she attacks, there's a mandatory effects that triggers where you have to inflict 100 damage to your opponent, which can actually hurt you more than it helps. 100 damage is not a lot, and it just allows monsters like Cyber Dragon Infinity, Cosmo Dark Lady, Solemn Strike, Ghost Ogre, Snow Rabbit, things like that to trigger and just blow up your Cat Dancer in the battle phase, which is really bad for you. So because of that, I like to go into mostly like to play with the next fusion in the ladder. It's called Lunalight Panther Dancer. I've only played 2 copies because she requires a Lunalight Cat Dancer and 1 other Lunalight monster to go into her. So it's kind of a harder summoning condition. That's why I play 3 of these and 2 of these. It's a good ratio. So basically, Lunalight Panther Dancer cannot be destroyed by card effects, and once per turn you can just activate this effect. You don't need to tribute another monster. She can attack each opponent's monster twice, and the first time she battles, they're not destroyed by that battle. It's kind of a theme with the fusions of the Lunalights, just so you can do a lot more damage, especially if this is boosted up by Blue Cat. And yeah, if she destroys an opponent's monster by battle, she gains 200 attack until the end of the battle phase. So basically, if you attack the smaller monsters first, she starts gaining a little more attack every time she destroys something, and hopefully you'll be able to run over the biggest threat they have on the field by the time she's done gaining attack. So she's not the greatest because she's 2800, and things like Dark Destroyer can obviously just run over her, but she does have that built-in protection, so Dark Destroyer can't pop her when you're trying to enter the battle phase. So that's really good. Next off, the last 2 cards in the extra deck, we play 2 copies of Lunalight Leo Dancer. Now, Lunalight Leo Dancer requires Lunalight Panther Dancer, and 2 other Lunalight monsters. So obviously this card is the hardest to summon because you have to go through Cat Dancer into Panther Dancer into Leo Dancer. I still like to play 2 copies because I play 3 copies of Lunalight Wolf, and basically if you can banish Panther Dancer and a couple other spare Lunalights, you can make 2 of these in 1 turn, which is really difficult for your opponent to get over because Leo Dancer cannot be targeted or destroyed by your opponent's card effects. And she has the effect where she can make a 2nd attack during each battle phase, and at the end of the damage step, if this card attacks an opponent's monster, you can basically destroy all special summon monsters your opponent controls. So if your opponent only controls special summon monsters and this card attacks, she'll nuke their field, and she can make a direct attack for 3,500, which is really strong. So yeah, that is it for the extra deck. Next we will go into the side deck. Alright, so going into the side deck, we are playing 3 copies of Effect Veiler, mainly because monster effects are very troublesome for this deck. You don't really want your opponent to be going off on their turn. You kind of want to stop them mid-combo, and it'd be especially good if you can stop them when they have smaller monsters on the field, so they can't get into their bigger boss monsters, and then your Panther Dancer, Leo Dancer can kind of just OTK through those monsters. So it's very strong, and it's also prevents you from being OTK'd from like Mermails and stuff by negating Neptibus. It helps you prevent your Leo Dancer from being shuffled back in the deck with Erebus and stuff like that by preventing Idea. Hopefully you're preventing Idea and Eidos from going off, but if worse comes to worse, you can prevent the Erebus from shuffling something back. Next off, we play 3 copies of Kumongous the Sticky String Kaiju. This is just the only Kaiju I have on hand, but you can be playing 3 Gameciel. Gameciel is probably ideal, but there's only a 200 attack difference between these 2, so it doesn't really matter. 2400, any Lunalight fusion can run over that really easily. So this just gets rid of problematic cards that your opponent has, maybe floaters like Dark Destroyer and stuff like that you don't want to deal with. And it's just a really good card, and you can potentially OTK through this if they're low on life points, and you give them this and you boost up a Panther or Leo Dancer for some big amounts of damage. Next off, we play 1 spell card in the side. We play Twin Twisters just because we don't like dealing with back row, and we want a fast game, right? So we want OTK. So we want to get rid of all the back row and just try to swing for some damage. Next off, we play 2 copies of Grisile Prison. Grisile Prison is an amazing card, and if you don't know what it does, if you control a face-up monster that was tribute, ritual, or fusion summoned, until the end of your opponent's next turn, neither player can synchro XYZ and synchro and XYZ monsters cannot attack, and their effects are negated. So basically, this is just devastating against Burning Abyss, especially if they summoned something in attack position. You can basically kill them next turn because they can't XYZ into Dante's or anything, so they have to leave their monsters on the field. And what you can do is you can just make Panther, even Cat Dancer can do a ton of damage by herself as well. And you could just start attacking into all those Burning Abyss monsters and swing for a ton of damage or for game that way. It is also very good to prevent pendulum decks like Draco Pals or whatever variants of Performer Pals are still relevant in the meta. You can prevent them from going to Ignister into their rank 4s and stuff like that. Next up, we play 3 copies of the best floodgate in the game, Rivalry of Warlords. Rivalry is an amazing card, and because all of our monsters are Beast Warrior type monsters, we don't really get affected by it. But this shuts down a lot of decks like Monarchs, Cosmos, or slows down Cosmos, and it hurts decks like Perform Pal variants and stuff like that. Burning Abyss, they're all fiends, so they can't overlay into Dante, who's a warrior, or Breaksword, they're both warriors. They can't go from Dante's into Beatrice, because Beatrice is a fairy, and all that good stuff. So this is a really strong card. Next off, we play some counter traps. We play 1 copy of Chaos Trap Hole, kind of a meta call. Pay 2,000, negate the summon of a light or dark monster, and banish it. So a very strong card, especially good against things that float, like Dante's, Beatrice, so you don't have to deal with them again and again. We play 1 copy of Solemn Warning, just in case we're going first. We like to side in these kinds of trap cards so that we have a chance of living. We can negate their plays, we can interact with our opponent a little bit before we try to go for a game the following turn. And last off, we play 1 copy of Solemn Scolding, because we barely play any traps. I play 3 in the main deck, so 1 Solemn Scolding just to prevent your opponent from doing like Stormforth and things like that can really help you stay in the game and continue fighting. So yeah, that is it for the side deck. And that is it for the deck profile. So thank you all so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it or found it helpful, please leave a like, subscribe for more Lunalight content, and leave a comment down below letting me know what I can do to improve. And until next time, take care.